Namaste. I would like to talk to you today about the dogs in India, often the ones that we see on the roads. There are two things that I would like to say. One is to Indians who have gotten to referring these dogs as mongrels. That has somehow come down to us through the colonial history that these dogs are crossover from the dogs that have had been brought in from England or some other faraway country, and these are half breeds. They are not really. They are native dogs. They are some of the oldest of the dogs in the world. Their history is 7,000 years old and can be traced to, I think, the Yangtze River Basin in China. And these dogs are seen also in Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bali, Indonesia, across Southeast Asia. And what they are not are recent half breeds, which is what the word mongrel is. So you would be more appropriate and also more respectful to them and yourself if you refer to them as native dogs. They are a native species. Before I get into the characteristic of the native species, which is different from the uh, bred dogs like the Alsatian and uh, many other breeds. The second point is to uh, foreigners who, for example, I had a Dutch lady who was surprised that I keep dogs at home. So, yeah, Indians do like their dogs. They just live with them differently from what has become the norm in the West in the last 100, 200 years. Um, but it is not because we do not like our dogs or we mistreat our dogs. It's not that way. It's a completely different attitude towards the animal. Yeah, but also there are many Indians in the cities and otherwise who keep dogs inside their home. And these can sometimes be the foreign breeds, but also many of them local as well. So there is a both keep inside the home culture and dogs on the street culture. It's both. Mm, yeah. So we are not uh, primitive. Yeah, that's the other name. Yeah? Primitive. No, I don't think. So yeah, there are two more points. I'll come. The third point I was going to make was so what are these native species and what are their characteristics? So primarily the native species are the dogs that are natives are like cats and maybe some other animals which grew around human populations. Yes, so they do sort of coexist with humans. There have been good times where it was a socially accepted thing to feed the dogs every day. Every household did that. In the morning, in the Hindu lore, in the morning the crows are fed, and in the nights food is put out for the dogs. So the Hindus are not just obsessive about their cows; they have an attitude of kindness and appreciation to all animals. And this is there in our traditional writings. This definitely present. Like, leave out food for the dogs in the night. This is really given. Um, and the native species, they are pack animals. They are not individual things. They're not the happiest alone. So they're pack animals. So if you keep a native dog at home, then it's great if there are two or three native dogs. That's how they socialize. So they have a hierarchy. They learn how to deal inside that hierarchy, how to watch for each other, and they also learn how to deal with human beings from the dogs, other dogs in the hierarchy. So that's very interesting characteristic which we do not associate with these Dobermans and German Shepherds, because these are breed dogs. These are recent breeds, like 300, 400 years old. But the native dogs are 7,000 years old. And so there is a very big contrast to their behaviors. Um, so one big thing is the pack animals. Another is that they can jump much higher than uh, bred species. Their talent is in jumping heights, really. And they really, the native dogs do not take well to confinement. You will have to not tie them up. The only time they get aggressive is if you tie them up. So you'll have to let them be. It's fine if they don't have so much space to run, but you do not tie them up. And they also, from my understanding, much more intelligent than the bred species. Any of it I've seen. I suppose that's got to do with their that it's harder for them to survive. So they need to have their wits about to get food, but stay safe and breed. And so they're a highly intelligent species. And I haven't read any studies on this yet, because well, most of these studies are coming from the Western colleges these days. And but then there is one American professor who's done genetic studies on the Bali dog, and I think he's also expanding to other parts of Asia. And that's a very interesting study. And some of my information, especially the age of these, the 7,000-year-old species, comes from his research. I forget his name, but it must be easy to Google it, like genetic research on native Asian dogs, and there you go, you'll find his research. um, yeah, that's about that. So yeah, have a good evening.